This is Victor with VentoBot, and today in this episode of Don't Kill the Messenger, we're talking about 3 things you need to do to stay compliant with Facebook in 2020. Now, there are 3 things because a lot of people right now are getting their Facebook ads shut down. Soon people will start to get their Facebook pages shut down and banned because of them not following these, especially if they're using Messenger Chatbots. So stay tuned and we're going to go ahead and talk about those 3 things here. Now, before I forget, if you're looking to generate never-ending leads, if you're using Facebook ads, if you're using any type of funnels, if you're using anything with Messenger Chatbots, go ahead and go to ventobot.com/book to go ahead and get the book. It's free, just cover shipping and we'll get it sent over to you. Now, back to what we're talking about here. The first thing that we need to make sure that you do to stay compliant in 2020, especially if you're using chatbots, is you need to focus on your welcome message. This welcome message is really important because what you want to do is you want to make sure that you get the person to opt into to your page just like you do in normal everything else, like emails, your funnels, anything else like that. However, additionally, you want to make sure that you tell them, I am going to send you stuff that's relatable, very similar to them opting into an email list. They're opting into your messenger list. So it's very important that you get them on your welcome message to say, yes, I want to keep getting this stuff, and you can tag them with that specific like a tag that says like this person wants to, they confirmed that they want to keep getting updates and messages from me and my page, because that is immediately going to keep you safe. It's very similar to them opting into an email list. It's illegal to just add someone to your email list without their knowledge or without them saying, hey, I want to actually do this. Very similar, you want to take that philosophy and bring it over to Messenger and say, if they didn't click this button, we're not going to be able to send them stuff. They're going to have to re-opt in to get more things. So the first thing here is we want them on the welcome message to immediately say like, hey, great, thanks for going to this. If you opted in for this thing, it's on its way. By the way, while you're here, we want to keep sending you stuff like this because it's going to help you. Do you want to get those? And then you just simply have like a yes or no. And if they say yes, great. And then you tag them and then you continue whatever with your flow, whatever you're doing in Messenger. And I'm not going to go into the details of that per se, but that is at least the first thing you want to do. You want to set up your welcome message to make sure that you can tag them and let them know, I would like to keep sending you stuff. Is that okay with you? And they have to raise their hand and say yes. And then you can tag them and then you're all set. Now, for the second thing, this is also important because come January 15th is when they're bringing down the hammer and starting to take away this rule. We used to have this 24+1 rule. That +1 was awesome and imperative because if someone didn't engage with our page within 24 hours, we can send them one additional message that gets them to re-engage. And if they re-engage, that reset that timer and gave us another 24+1. Now, come January 15th, that +1 is going away and we're no longer going to have that. So they have to engage within 24 hours. And if we send them outside of a message outside of that, we're no longer compliant. And we're kind of, now we're like borderline, skating on the edge there to saying like, hey, if they ban our page, we sent them an email without their acknowledgement saying that they want to. Again, if they opted in for this, we'll be able to kind of send them stuff. However, but if they don't get them to opt in, and one specific thing that especially ManyChat has done is allowed us to connect with email and text messages. So one of the easiest ways to get them is to opt in for text reminders. And that is important because if we get them to opt in for text reminders, whenever we want to do that +1, we can send them an email and a text and say, hey, we have this new thing, go see it in Messenger, and then send them right back to Messenger, and that resets that 24-hour rule so we can follow up with them 24 hours later. Now, if you are someone on a page that sends like daily updates of some kind of productivity track or anything like that, then you don't have to really worry about this because you are, constantly engaging with them. Obviously, as long as they're actually engaging with the content. Because if you're not and you don't follow this third step, which we'll get to in a second, then you're not actually getting them to you're not staying compliant essentially, right? So for the second option here, we want them to opt in for text reminders. So this is simply a setting in ManyChat, for example, that you would go into your settings, you turn on SMS. There is a cost. I think it's like 3 cents per text. If that, I think it's even less than that. But that allows you to, on top of the email address, send them an email to get them to come back to Messenger, send them a text message to come back to Messenger, so that you can re-engage and restart that conversation with them. All right, so now, before I forget, if you're looking for how to create a process to even have people to talk to in the first place and generate never-ending leads, go to bentobot.com/book so that you can go ahead and get those 4 phases that we take our private clients through to generate never-ending leads. Now, back to what we're talking about here. We're talked about first the welcome message, right? As long as you get them to opt in immediately and tag them with a, hey, we want to keep sending you stuff, and you tag, they say yes, you tag them with that tag, and now you can continuously send people with that tag only that specific and additional messages and whatnot. And then you get them to opt in for text reminders. So now we not only have their email address, but now we have their text. They have to actually say, I want to opt in for text. We can't just because we have their number doesn't mean we can just add them to text. Very similar to email. Just because we have their email doesn't mean we can add them to our email list. We have to get them to opt into that. So very similar to text, and if you want to even add email in there, that's perfectly fine too. Just know that what we're doing here for this second step is we're getting their permission. We're getting the permission to keep the conversation going. They obviously wanted something from us in the first place, which is why they opted in. Next, we move into the next section of like we keep that engagement going, right? We've attracted them, we've engaged them, and we keep that elevation going by keep giving them content that's going to move them through the process and get them to the end of result that they wanted to in the first place. So that's that second step here. Now, the last step, and this is actually probably the most important, because if you don't have this, then you are definitely not staying compliant, and you risk the chance of people blocking your page. The higher, I'll stand over here so you guys can see it, but the higher the block rate, the more chances you are that you'll get your Facebook page banned. So we always want to provide this option here. And this option is super important. In every broadcast, every message that we send out, we always want to have an opt-out or unsubscribe. One of those two. So we either have an opt-out or an unsubscribe. I like to do both. For example, I like to say no more messages or an unsubscribe and an unsubscribe. Those two, because they may not want to unsubscribe from the page, they may just not want to get that specific content. For example, if you have a specific thing that says no more messages, and that triggers another flow that says, hey, do you just want to not get messages about this specific thing, or do you just want to get non-messages entirely? And then we can ask them, because maybe, have you ever I bet you're a bit like me and you kind of opted into something before and you're kind of like, great, this is relevant here, I'm done with this, but I like to keep getting your content. Your content is good, but this particular piece of stuff I don't want to really hear about anymore. And I've done that with certain people. You know, you opt out of certain lists. I have like one person, I'm opted into like 3 of their lists, but I'm into their main content list. I'm in their specifics of like building a business. The second one is like there's another piece of it that I'm following too, but the one of that third piece I no longer needed, so I opted out of that. I still want their content, and I still want the stuff that helps me build a business. And that's essentially what you're doing here. You're segmenting them and you're helping them opt out, giving them a way out. Because if not, the only option they have is you force them to block your page. And that gives a message to Facebook that says, hey, a lot of people are starting to block this page. We're going to look at it, and then you create like you shine a flashlight on your page essentially, and they say, hey, are you staying compliant or not? And that's how we do it. So again, just to recap, you have your welcome message. In this welcome message, the most important thing is to get them to say, hey, we want to keep sending you stuff like this. Is that okay? They say yes, you tag them, and you're all set. For the second step is you opt in for text reminders. This allows you to send not just emails to send them back to the bot, but text messages to send them back to the bot, so that you can keep that, you can reset that 24-hour rule. Again, January 15th, they're getting rid of the +1 rule, so that is no longer going to be something we can do and play with, even if it's just like a, hey, I'm doing this. You interested? Or like anything to start a conversation, that's still considered promotional in their eyes from then on. So now, and then the last option, the last step here is to make sure they have an opt-out or in unsubscribe, or both. I like to do both, and that allows you to kind of go with both of those. So before I forget, if you were looking to fill your lead generation, you're going to kind of generate never-ending leads, go to ventobot.com/book to get the book, so that you can get those 4 phases that we take our clients through, our private clients through, and you can create that system up yourself. All right, talk to you next time. I will see you guys.